Thank you for coming to this Inform Your Community Craftivism event. My name is Tyler. My pronouns are they, them. I am a person with brown hair. My shirt is blue. My virtual background is white with our lovely Y guy in the corner. Closed captioning is enabled and can be turned on at any time by any participant. I believe it's along the bottom. There should be a button that says Show Captions. At Inform Your Community, we offer events that combine fun and important, impactful information. You can find more information at informyourcommunity.org, where you can find our social media links, our various issues, infographics. Please direct your friends. You can also sign up for our mailing list and get information about our events as they are coming up. And of course, you can also donate using our donate link at the top right of the page. If you're watching this recording, please take a moment to like, subscribe, comment, share. We love to hear what you think about our crafts, events, and to see your finished projects on social media, so feel free to tag us. This event is part of our Craftivism program, where adults learn different art techniques and discuss relevant social issues. Understanding more about productive discourse is an important topic for many reasons. One of those is that it's very concerning that 113% of people misrepresent statistics when trying to make a point. It's even more concerning that the Pew Research Center reports that 45% of people have stopped talking to someone they know about politics. These are all great reasons for us to get to know more about this topic. So today, our co-facilitator is Stacey K. She has a PhD in communication, has taught interpersonal communication and business communication courses for 20 years, and has published 6 books on stereotypes in communication. Needless to say, she seems to be a great fit as our co-facilitator for today's topic of productive discourse. Would you like to introduce yourself? You're also muted. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for that great introduction. And yes, hi, everybody. I'm Stacey, and my pronouns are she and her, and I am a white woman with salt and pepper hair, and I have a kind of screen in the background that's like white leafish flowery things. And I am so very, very happy to be here.
We are happy to have you. And as well as having our lovely co-facilitator, I am also here to help us with tech issues in addition to introducing everyone. So if there are any questions, issues, anything like that, throw the questions in the chat. You can direct message me. You can send it to everyone, whatever you want to do. Throughout the yep. And then we also have our crafter, who is also Stacey L.
Not to confuse anyone.
No, not to confuse anyone at all. She will help us with learning our art technique today, which is sculpting. Can you tell us more about this technique?
Hi, everyone. Oh, am I echoing? Do I sound okay?
No, you're echoing.
You are.
Okay.
Here,
I think you have to mute me.
I did. You unmuted yourself.
Oh,
Is that better?
That is better.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Stacey. As mentioned, my pronouns are she and her, and I am a white woman with brown hair. My shirt is navy blue. My virtual background is the Inform Your Community. It's white with the Inform Your Community Craftivism logo. Thank you. And I just want to tell you why I picked this craft. I picked this craft because I was looking for something that represents productive discourse. And when I thought of productive discourse, I thought of flowers. One way that we always show people that we value and respect them is always through flowers. Think about how many times you've gone to visit someone or to someone's home, and what is a non-food item that we usually think to bring is a bouquet of flowers. Why? Because typically that's what we think of to show appreciation and love for individuals. So if we want to have productive conversation with people, it helps if we show that we appreciate each other. So even if we just appreciate the time someone is taking to talk with us. So today we're going to be making a mini clay flower pin or magnet out of sculpey clay. And the art technique, as mentioned, that we're going to be using, even though we're making flowers, the art technique is actually sculpting.
I love this craft, by the way. I have to say it's one of my favorites. And it's great because you can make it with your own DIY clay at home, which is like, oh, we have a little cat visitor. Dana, thank you for the cat visitor. Oh my gosh, that's going to be messy if the cat gets into that homemade clay, because that's flour. They're just gonna. Okay, so
Cat tax is just a staple of my events. That's just what's
I
happening.
love the cat tax. We have a lot, our organization, and there's a lot of cats involved in our organization somehow. Everybody seems to have at least one. But yes, so watch out, because you have to knead the clay, and you know how cats knead, so you have to be careful. It's not the cats who are kneading the clay, because that's not going to end well. But that kneading that clay is pretty relaxing. We have what do you call that when we want a second round of cat? Oh my gosh, encore. Somebody wants an encore of your cat. So yes, so as you knead your clay, if you're doing it at home, there's lots of great recipes for that online, but it's really a fun, relaxing thing to do, is to make your own clay. But if you have our kit, or if you have the clay, I mean, that's fantastic too. And I totally agree with Stacey. Making flowers and bringing flowers, it's a great way to show appreciation. I really love that. And you know, especially around Thanksgiving time is a time when we tend to have, or other holiday meals, we tend to have a lot of controversial conversations around those meals. So if you started off with like, oh, I'm so happy to be here, here's some flowers for you, before you get into those really, you know, deep discussions, it may ease it a little bit. So, you know, Thanksgiving and other holidays where you have, you know, big dinners, birthdays, graduations, lots of graduations now, are great times to practice productive discourse.
I, for one, sure do recall some of those heated holiday discussions. And while some folks on our event tonight are maybe chuckling over some that they are recollecting as well, I'm going to talk you through some of the materials needed for today's art sculpting project. So everyone is going to need a scissor of some, a scissor, if you can gather that, and a hard surface to work on. As you can see, I have some plates that I'm using, but just make sure in front of you, you do have a hard surface. If you don't have our kit that you received, as Stacey mentioned, you can actually make a do-it-yourself clay. The instructions are going to be listed in the chat. I'll go over them quickly. You'd need a mixing bowl, a spoon. It's going to take a half a cup of flour, a quarter cup of salt, a half a tablespoon of vegetable oil, a quarter cup of water. You're going to mix the flour and salt together first, and then add in the oil and the water and continue mixing. Once you have that compound, you're just going to continue kneading it all together, and you're going to come up with something like this. So, and so while we're going through and you're mixing that, you can knead that and make it soft and pliable to work with. If you do have our kit, you have something like this, and you have 4 Sculpey colors. So you have a mustard color, and then you have green, and then you'll have 2 flower colors there. And you also have a pin and a magnet. So we'd probably do that at some point. You'll need glue to add the pin and the magnet on at the end, but that's like for after the event. So while our crafters are working on mixing and making sure they have these materials, I'm hoping, Stacey, that you can tell us some basic productive discourse terms that we should know.
Excellent. Happy to do that. There are so many important terms that you could kind of be more aware of when it comes to productive discourse, you know, problem solving and all kinds of terminology. But I'll give you 2 that are like the most important to me if you want to have kind of civic and respectful conversations with each other, civil and respectful conversations with each other, because we can't really get into everything, right? So for me, 2 really important ones are empathy. And empathy, a lot of people think of it as like putting yourself in another one's position, like another one's shoes. Really, it's about like having an awareness about how somebody might be feeling, given what's going on, right? And so really kind of understanding that, kind of taking it in, and not just saying like, oh yeah, they're probably upset, but like really like what is this person feeling right now? What might they be going through in this situation, kind of in their own head and their own emotions. Another term that for me is really important is self-awareness. A lot of times when we have a conflict or we're having a difficult conversation, something we're talking about is controversial, it's always about, well, you and you and you and you, and, you know, we're very, you know, offensive. And it's self-awareness helps us to understand kind of where we're coming from. So an awareness of our own, like, so how is our personality playing into this? Or how is our, you know, attitudes and behaviors and our own kind of privilege even, you know, if you're having an argument and it's in your own house, what does that mean versus if it's in, you know, somebody else's house? So we're understanding kind of where you're coming from and how somebody else might see your personality, your attitude, your behavior, or your own privilege. Those are two.
Yeah, those are definitely important terms to know. Absolutely. Very important. And you know what else is important to know for our event tonight, Stacey?
What?
The first step in our craft instructions.
I'm sure, yes, that is a good point. Yes, we probably should do that now.
Yeah, we're gonna get started. So again, I just want to go, if you don't have our craft kit, you've been given the ingredients to do-it-yourself clay. If you've been mixing that and kneading that, after mixing it all together and kneading it well, you may have, again, a ball of clay like this. So what you're going to do is you can split it into smaller working parts if you have too much to work with. But what you're going to do is take just small round pieces and make them into 8 balls. So I've taken the liberty of doing that here. And I've showed you a bead, really just to give you an example of the size to make those balls. So make 8 round balls out of your clay if you're making your own do-it-yourself. If you have your kit, you'll notice that you have 2 different color, sorry, my position here. You have 2 different color colors of sculpey. So these will be used to make your flower petals. So what you're going to do is decide if you want your colored petals alternating colors. So like, for example, you're going to have a finished product that looks something like this. So if you'd like each petal to be one of the colors, you can do it that way, or you can take these and mix them together and make like tie-dye colored petals, if you'd like to. If you're going to do that and mix them together as a tie-dye, just be careful not to overmix, because your 2 colors could end up becoming one color and becoming a different color, like maybe a brown. So, so if you want to keep them, you know, the nice 2 colors that you have, and really make it look tie-dye, just don't over mix them and over knead them. So we will be rolling each square into balls. But if the sculpey doesn't feel like soft and pliable, hold it in your hand to warm it up a little bit, you know, just like this, to make it feel a little more pliable in your hand as you're so we can roll it basically. So while our crafters are doing that and getting this pliable and making balls, I'm not the expert, Stacey, but I would think maintaining civility is an important value to have when engaging in conversation.
Yeah, I would say that is a very important value for sure. And really, civility is to me, civility is just about the ability to disagree without being disrespectful. Really, to me, that's what it's about, right? You can disagree with somebody without, you know, being mean about it, being, you know, stubborn about it, or being kind of a jerk, right? Like, you don't want to disagree with somebody and be disrespectful.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interject. We have a question in the chat just clarifying what pieces they're making into balls.
Yeah, so actually, so with each one of your colors, these are going to be petals. So you're going to make 4. What you want to do is, at this point, you can actually take your scissor and cut it into 4 pieces. so that you're going to have 8 pieces. So in the end, you want to have 8 pieces, and keep them separate. And then each one of those squares, you're going to roll into balls. Thank you for your question. So yeah, what we're going to do is then take each one of these and just make 8 balls with them.
So yeah, the 8 balls, and then those 8 balls are going to be 8 little petals, right?
Yeah, we're going to do that in the next step. Yep. So while we're talking here, we just figure we'll be rolling and making these into 8 separate little balls.
And by the way, I've got, I don't know if you can see it. I'm mixing them together.
Oh, you are? Okay.
So I've got like my little, I didn't cut mine. I just ripped them apart once I
Yeah,
put
you don't have to, if you don't have scissors, honestly, like, you know, that you can really just rip it apart. It all depends if you kind of want to make equal parts and really try to make equal size petals. But you know, if you want it to look a little diverse, each petal, and have some of its own character, then yeah, you don't have to be so precise with the scissor. So as you can see, I'm just making
and I see somebody
here.
Sorry, I see somebody wrote in the chat, disagree without being disagreeable. Yeah, I would say that's a great way to remember civility. It's like disagree without being disagreeable. And
Yeah.
actually, according to a study conducted in 2019, 68% of people believed incivility is a major problem. So and I'm sure I can see some of you there going, absolutely. And 45% of people, this is kind of a sad statistic. I mean, the other one's bad enough, but this is really sad. 45% of people have stopped talking to somebody because of politics, because of something somebody said about politics. So especially given the political climate now, you know, productive discourses, you know, I'm really glad all of you are here to learn about productive discourse. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that is actually a sad statistic to have. And yeah, I would think that people thinking that that's a major issue. But yeah, we're going to continue on so I don't have a major issue and run out of time, and continue on with step 2. So if you've all made your balls, your 8 balls, we are going to go on and make the petals out of those. So what I'm going to show you is to take each of your balls. I'm just trying to show you here. We're going to press on it down, but not really pressing from the middle. What you want to do is kind of press on the side. So you can see my fingers kind of on the side of it there. And we're going to kind of press and flatten. So if you can tell, you see how I have a wider side and then it starts to thin out where I press on my finger. I'll show you again. So I'm kind of on the side of it and I'm pressing down and pulling flat. And
like slanted, right? Like kind of pressing down slanted.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely not squashing. Like if you want to squash something, you go like from the top and just kind of flatten it. But yeah, you want to kind of do it slanted, bring it down and flatten it. So you
I feel like it almost looks like a shoe.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah. And it eventually will look bulb-like. So just to give you an idea of the bubble, and the wider side is really going to be the end of your petals. So we are going to do that with all of them and flatten them. Do this one at a time to each of the balls that you made. If you're working with it and you happen to get a nail mark in it, I just want to note that whatever kind of indent that you see there is absolutely going to show. If you have a crack in the clay or a nail mark, once you bake it, it will stay there. So feel free to just re-roll the ball and start over and just press again. Yeah, when I was doing this and practicing, I got my nails in some of it. So, so I just started over. Yeah, so just feel free to do that. And Stacey, I do have a question for you while we're sitting here making our petals flat, who do you think of when you think of people that are great conversationalists?
That is a good question. So, I think you guys are gonna laugh when I tell you who I think of. I think of Mr. Rogers and Bob Ross, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
I do. And I think of
Great.
them because they're like patient and calming. And I think that's the kind of demeanor you need. Yes, soothing. You like need to go into a conversation. Like other people may get riled up, but just to, always thinking like de-escalating, right? Like calming down the situation and being patient. And you can just imagine Mr. Rogers or Bob Ross, like nothing gets them riled up. Like they're gonna be chill no matter what. So I think of them. And you may also think of, I mean, you may be familiar with it, Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. So not like him, but particularly that speech, he talks at the end of it about children like walking down the street together holding hands. And I just love that imagery. And so I think about that when I think about productive discourse. I also think of Oprah Winfrey. She's talked to so many on her show, right? The Oprah Winfrey Show. She talked to so many people, like so many, all kinds of personalities from all different walks of life, like on all different topics. And yet it was always Oprah, right? She was always like her kind of gregarious, inquisitive, sincere self. And I think of that as well. And she was funny. And those would probably be the names that I think of the most. And anybody out there, if you've got some more names you think of, if you think of like good conversationalists that other people might know of, I mean, it might be like your Aunt Mary.
Yes, that's very true. Especially the talk show hosts or someone like Oprah Winfrey. I definitely agree. So with that said, I'm going to move everyone along to show the next step. So once you have all of your petals flattened, what we're going to do is take them one by one and lift them off of your hard surface. Now, the reason I had you doing it this way, like making the balls and flattening them all together, is so that you can basically see them all together in size. So if you were not happy with one, you felt it looked smaller, or you felt like it came out too flat, you need to do it again. At least you can kind of see them in combination with each other. Otherwise, you can really flatten and do this next method that I'm showing you kind of all together in a step. So you take one of them onto your finger, and you're basically going to pinch the thinner side, not the wide end, and you're going to pinch that your back. So you can see very gently, because you don't want to flatten the top that has the nice wide. You're going to pinch the bottom together like that. And they just fell out of my hand. Yeah. So we can continue on with those and pinch all of them as you're going through it. We're just going to bless you. Okay. Pinch all of them. Take that. So one by one. And what we're going to actually do is kind of arrange them all together. Once you have them all rolled, this is where the fun flower arranging actually comes into play, because I have to re-roll that one actually. It was a little too thin. So you're gently going to pick up each petal one by one and pinch, and those, can you see what I'm doing? Okay. So those pinched ends you're going to arrange them with your pointer finger and kind of gently hold them together and put those pinched ends together and start arranging. Now you can decide if you'd like to do every other color petal and start to arrange them circular like this. And with your pointer finger and your thumb, gently pinching and holding as you're going around in a circle and adding each one. So the trick is to not press too firmly because you don't want to squish your petals and that nice wider end that you're gonna see your end result. So you're just gonna keep adding and going around, but not pinching too tightly, not squeezing too tightly. And then once you have them all together, if anyone has any questions or would like to show it as you're going along, feel free. And you do gently want to push in the middle. As you can see, mine are falling apart. I'm not pinching hard enough. And I'm just gently pinching in the middle with my thumb. Okay. As you can see there. Now, another way you can do this, I just want to show you. I did make an example like this. If you can kind of see where this one is like layered. So when you get the hang of this way and you have some more clay of your own, and you want to try it, you can kind of arrange these in like a north, south, east, west pattern. And then opposite of that, you can take your other pieces and kind of layer them in between. So it gives it more of a dimensional effect. But for now, we'll stick with this. Okay. So you'll have something that looks like this. And if for any reason you're not happy with it, if you do look on the back, you know, you should be able to undo it and take it apart if you need to. Yeah, so there you go. How's your night? Okay. I think you're muted again. See.
This is mine with the multicolored, like I mix them together so it's a little tie-dye. I don't know if you can really see it because it's so dark. But
Okay.
I don't know where my camera is, but it actually looks a lot. You can kind of see there's a couple of different colors in there.
Oh yeah, I do see it. Yeah, great.
Well, listen, while folks are working, oh, and I see Jana. Oh, see
Yeah.
that one's coming out real nice.
Nice.
I love seeing them as they go along. And while if it's okay, Stacey, while folks are working on the flower petals, can I talk more about flowers?
Of course, please do.
And I wanted to mention, I know like this isn't really like the flower show, but it kind of is because these are so cute. So like, oh my God. Whoop, I didn't hear that one. But the flowers are so cute. I wanted to say that there's like so much a part of our lives. Like you might think like, okay, yeah, I don't want to have to go buy flowers for somebody just to show them that I respect them. But like flowers are so ingrained in what we do. Think of all the times you send somebody like a flower emoji, right? Or you know, maybe you give somebody a rose, or you know, now they have all kinds of different emojis, sunflower emojis and full bouquet emojis, right? They have all kinds of things that you can do. And it's so great when we see these and we give them out kind of so readily, but when we're we're giving them out so readily to everybody when we're not in conflict, right? But when we're going to have a difficult conversation, we often forget that kind of subtlety, that kind of simplicity of like just showing respect, showing appreciation. And I just wanted to mention that emojis are things that we use, especially when we're talking to families and friends, when things are difficult, right? It's not so bad to like share those as well. So flowers in person, flowers in our emojis, things like that. And there's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to mention about social media platforms. I didn't know if you were.
Oh, no, I was going to say one more thing about emojis. I was going to say there's actually, you know how many, anybody want to guess? Somebody should put in the chat how many emojis there are. And this is like, we talked about empathy and like owning our own like self-awareness and things like that. And there's so many emojis to express how we're feeling and what we're thinking. Anybody want to try to guess? You don't have to put it in the chat if you don't want to. You can just tell us. Anybody? And there's more emojis every day. That's totally true. Should I give it away or should I give you another second? Okay. Expedite. Oh, 500. Oh no, higher. There are as of 2020. So that's how long ago?
Right.
4 years ago. Okay, we've got another guess. 1024. As of 2020, there were 3,521 emojis that can be used to express what you're thinking, what you're feeling, in our phone, on our phones, on our computers, and so forth. So there's really, I mean, you can see some, in our chat right now, there's some that we can use. Thumbs up, flowers, hearts, smiley faces. All of these things can help when we're trying to have a productive conversation, because especially through text, so much of our messaging is through texts and email and chats these days. You don't get to show each other our facial expressions, right? So having those emojis to say like, oh, the thing you said made me sad, or, oh, yes, I agree with you. Those are good things to communicate. Hugs and fist bumps, handshakes. You can share those with emojis these days, which is super cool.
Wow. Yeah.
And somebody said,
also, I find writing emails really tough because you do have people don't understand the expression that you may want to bring to the table. And sometimes it's harder than just talking to somebody because they can see your face or 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 even on the phone sometimes people don't know what you're thinking.
It's true.
Yeah.
Facial expressions I find are really helpful.
Absolutely. And then that self-awareness and everything, empathy and everything, if somebody is saying something and you're like, were they being a jerk when they said that? Like, what did they mean?
Yeah.
That's when that empathy comes into play. Like, okay, let me think about this. Is there any reason they would want to be a jerk to me right now? Like, no, there's in this situation, like that's not where their head's probably at, right? And same thing, self-awareness, like, is there a chance this will get misunderstood if I said it this way? And then we can kind of contemplate it some more. Yeah.
Right.
Excellent. Excellent point.
I know goes along with what I was also going to say with social media platforms, kind of similar to what Jess is saying about emails, social media platforms like Facebook, which was introduced in 2004. New communities of people were able to engage in productive and not so productive discourse without limitations of time and physical distance. So those emojis, getting back to the emojis that you said, help and show people how we feel. Sometimes it's so hard to put into words our feelings, but it helps when you have a discussion with someone you love, where again, you can kind of say it better in words than in person. But emojis do help, even when, especially when emotions, things like sadness or anger or fear are often less likely to share.
That's
yeah.
Excellent point. And we talked about values before, and I have another value for you for this topic, and it's listening. And it's really also another way to show appreciation and love and respect is listening, but not just like, like, yeah, nodding, like, yeah, like not that kind of listening, right? And in the books on the topic, they talk about the difference between listening and hearing, right? You can hear it, that's just audible, like I hear a sound somebody's saying, but listening, right, that's different. And you show people that you care, that you respect them and value them, even if you might disagree with them, by listening and showing you're listening. So those kind of, nodding and reaffirming what they're saying. Like, so I hear what you're saying is, right? And that's very different from when we're like pretending to listen. You guys have done that, I'm very sure, right? Pretend to listen. Hopefully you're not doing that now. Pretending to listen, or you're like distracted as you're listening. So you're like really doing something else, especially now everything's on Zoom. So you could be like doing like your dissertation on the side. Nobody would know. You're just like, right? And meanwhile, you're working on something else. So pretending to listen or being distracted while you're listening. And then one of the worst is when you're just thinking of the next thing you want to say. You're like, okay, I can't forget to say this. I can't forget to say this. I got to remember to say this. And then you're like, okay, now I don't know what they just said. So the thing that you say back is like from 4 minutes ago, right? And so now the other person's like, were you even listening to me? Right. And so those things are like not really listening, right? So listening is
Yeah.
a really important value.
Yeah. And like you said, listening while we're giving instructions. So important to listen and like, for example, how to do the craft. So which reminds me, I'm going to get on to the next step. Thank you so much. So now we're actually going to take the mustard colored clay that you have. I'm actually gonna do, well, I don't know, what should we do the leaf first?
I actually, whichever you want, whatever you want to do, you go, girl.
I know, I feel
I'll
like
follow
if you,
along. I'll
I'm
follow
gonna do
along.
the center. So let's, yeah, I feel like it might be better for visualization to see it with the center where everyone may want to stick their leaf. So
I'm with you.
let's take your mustard colored clay and we're gonna roll that into a ball as well. And again, if it's not pliable, again, just remember to hold it for a couple seconds in the palm of your hand. But even just the act of going like this is heating it up too. So that's
I don't think our person in Missouri is going to have any problem with the clay being warm
yeah.
enough and malleable enough, right, Mitchell?
Right. So you'll have a nice round ball there. And what you're going to do is really just, you're going to place that right in the center of your flour and just press down, you press down lightly if you want to do that on the flat surface. But you're going to make it a nice little center on the flour. Yeah, I love that. And I love that color. So again,
glitter. It seems like it's got a little.
Yeah, it has some glitter to it. Yeah, I believe it does. I think the green for the leaf does as well. So if you have our kit, you also have some green sculpey clay in there as well. So we're going to do the same thing. Roll that, heat it in your hand. I find the green a little less pliable. I feel like that when you have to hold a little bit or really work it. Yeah. Yeah, it's very gummy, I find, like the or less gummy. I feel really you need to kind of work it. So you want to get that nice and heated up and browned, and you're going to do the same thing with the green as we did with the petals. So you're just going to press down on that sideways again and press and kind of pull. Yeah, the green is definitely harder to work with. So really work that and get that nice and heated up. I just have to heat mine up a little bit more because it's cracking on me. So if you find that your green is cracking, just roll it a little bit more and start over. That's the beauty of the clay is you just got to work it. How is everyone else is doing? Okay, it worked great. Okay, yeah, so just make a ball with it and
oh, look at that.
perfect. Great. Okay. So the difference with this one, what we're going to do is actually now you're going to find a spot. If you happen to see a spot in your flower that maybe has some space, or you see a good spot that you'd want a leaf to basically stick out of it, that's where you're going to place the green sculpey. You're going to, I find it easier to pinch while it's on my flower, but you can pinch it also in your hand. But the part that's actually going to stick out now is the thinner part. The wider part of your green petal is going to go in the back and behind of your petals. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a leaf. The wider part of your leaf that you just made is going to go behind your petals, and the thinner side is what's going to stick out. So like I said, I find it easier to kind of stick on and work with it while it's here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take it and roll it in your, so you want to basically get like kind of like an end. If you can see how I'm just rolling like the very tip to make it a little pointy. Perfect. Stacey's got a great leaf. Yeah, so you know, if you just keep working the tip and rolling and flattening a little bit. Great. And then find your spot that you want to put it on. Just on the back. And it just has a nice little, sticks out nicely where you want to have your leaf sticking out, and fills in some gap if if you needed to. Awesome. Yep, and like I said, you just want to make sure not to flatten too much your petals while you're doing this. Your leaf, if you want it to stick out a little bit more, you can continue rolling the very tip just so that it stands out a little bit more. And that's basically mine. You can actually, you know, again, if you're working with this and you're gonna watch the video after the fact and you're gonna play and make some on your own at home, or even with the do-it-yourself, you can add more leaves if you feel the need. You can have others coming out. Like when I made this one, I did three leaves. Yeah.
That's oh, that's fantastic. I love it. I've got mine here. And I'm wondering, you know, we talked about instructions before, and we talked about listening before, and I'm wondering how many of you heard the instructions the first time, you know, entirely, right? And maybe when Stacey told us the instructions a second time, we heard a little bit more of it than we heard the first time, because it's a lot to kind of process all that information. And sometimes, you know, that happens when we're having conversations with people, right? We hear like the first part, but we don't hear everything they said, right? And they're like, aren't you listening? And oh no, wait, what did you say again? And actually research has shown that within 10 minutes of a conversation, we only remember 10% of what was said, what was actually said. And what we end up remembering instead is what we expected the person to say in that conversation, or what we expected to happen in that conversation. Could you imagine how much that hurts conversation, right? Like you have a conversation with somebody, you're like, okay, that's how that went. 10 minutes later, you're like, okay, what was that conversation about? And you're only remembering 10% of what was actually said, and everything else is what you expected before you even got into the conversation. And so it's not so great for having a productive conversation, right? And if you've ever been in that situation when you go back to somebody and they're like, you weren't listening to me, or that's not what I said. How did you not realize that's what I said, right? But if we can remember, if we can like realize that we're, you know, our memory's faulty, we're not going to always remember everything, then go back to empathy, right? And self-awareness, it might get us farther in those difficult conversations.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know that 10% fact. That's but I actually can totally relate now that I think of conversations or sometimes even myself, if like, you know, when you're not present and in the moment and focused and really showing consideration and empathy, and, you know, forgetting everything else and quieting your own mind and listening.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's wow. So before I give everyone too much information to process and retain, our final step, actually, if you're love the way that your flower came out, we're not going to be baking this today. We have a question.
I just wanted to say, now imagine what the conversation would be like if you have like an important doctor's visit, or if you have an important lawyer's visit. Those are really hard, you know, and it's hard to hear when you're taking on something else to think about.
It's an excellent point. And all the jargon that like, you know, doctors use, right? All the fancy language and all those things that they're trying to say. And then,
Especially when you're hearing bad news. too.
especially, which is
Yeah.
the worst time. You'd like to think if you're hearing really important news, even if it's bad, like, you know, you're listening really carefully, but sometimes whether it's with a doctor or like a conversation, you know, you're arguing with your parent or, you know, or friend, and you're like, you're overwhelmed with emotion, right? It could be bad news from a doctor or something, and it makes it, you know, what's going on in your head makes it, and in your heart, and, you know, it makes it harder to hear
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah, excellent point.
Well,
That's a good, somebody, I don't know if you see this in the chat, somebody mentioned that they come in with pen and pad and read it back and restate a lot. Now, I love that idea, but I'm literally right now imagining you having a fight with like your spouse, and there with your pen and your paper, like, this is what you said. I'm assuming that's not what you meant at the doctor. Okay, just wanted to clarify that for the, you know, the rest of the people on the call. You know, there's sometimes pen and paper really works, and there's sometimes out of context that is not what you want. Doctor, but spot on with the doctor's office. Spot on.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So just quickly, thank you. I just want to mention for baking. So once you're happy with your arrangement you've created, you can, as long as you're using clay that can bake. Sometimes there's clay that air dries. So just make sure that you have a clay like Sculpey is for baking. And you're going to put it on an oven safe baking sheet. You can use foil under it. 275 or like 15 to 30 minutes per a 1/4 inch of thickness, actually. So for example, if your clay is like a 1/2 inch thick, you'd bake it for 30 minutes, is basically what it's saying. The good rule of thumb is you can start at 15 and then add increments of 5 from there. You know, if you feel you want to see how 15 minutes goes and is. The caveat is with Sculpey anyway, is it's not as squishy as it is now, like when you press, but it is still a little bit, again, remember it's going to be hot, but it's not, it doesn't harden until it's cooled, basically. So even after 15 minutes, you might seem like, oh, okay, it needs more time, but just remember, yeah, it's gonna fully harden once it's cooled, and like 60 to 90 minutes. Let it like cool for 60 to 90, and then you'll have like a nice hard piece of clay and your flour that's good to work with.
Stacey,
So-
sorry to interrupt, but somebody asked if the recipe we have for the homemade clay is bakeable. I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Great. So that was in the chat. I think it's also on the Eventbrite page. We have the recipe for this event. It's on the Eventbrite page.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
believe. Yeah, okay.
And to add some color to that, also, you can put food coloring directly in here and in your petals beforehand, or after it's baked, you can use acrylic paints and paint it with acrylic paint if you use the do-it-yourself clay. So if you'd like to make colored petals, what you do is maybe, you know, keep breaking off little bits and use some food coloring so that you have, you know, you can use this piece, you know, maybe you want it red, this piece, maybe you want it blue, you know, whichever, however you want to do it. But yeah, or bake it, and after the fact, you can use acrylic paint. Creating a monster. Yes.
And you could do it tie-dye too, by the way, with that with
Oh,
the
yeah.
Food coloring. You can kind of make it tie-dye looking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be so cool. I love it. Yes. So once it's completely cooled, then what you can do is, so both of these, if you want to make a magnet, just know, so the magnet that you were given in the kit does not have a sticky back, so you would need some glue, or it is a sticky back. Is this? No. So you'd need some glue for that, or the pin also. Just be careful that you're not gluing the pin closed. Don't overuse glue. And you really just want to stick it, once this is hardened, you're just going to put some glue on it and then just put the pin back on there, and you would have your pin, or you would just place a dot of glue and have a magnet for yourself. Yeah, so you just don't want to glue the pin shut. And then if you prefer a shiny flower, what you can also do, if you can tell on this one that was already done, you can see it has a little more shine as opposed to this one. So take a clear nail polish, one that you don't intend to use on your fingernails. And you can put a top, like a top coat of nail polish to give it a little shine, other than varnish or paint. And you want to just avoid getting bubbles, because those bubbles won't be forgiving. They will stay there. So just a very light top coat, and you can see how that has a nice shine.
And just to clarify, we do that after we bake it, right?
After you bake it, and
Okay.
after it's completely cooled. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not quite sure. I guess for some reason it's said to not use that, I guess because of the clay ingredients. Like you want one that you don't intend to use again, like on your own nails. Yeah. Yeah. So that's all the instructions. There you have it for your beautiful pin to wear, a flower pin. Nice sculpting, everyone. And I hope you all enjoyed the craft and enjoy conversation. Maybe if you make a pin and you wear it out, maybe it's a good conversation starter, and maybe break some and have proper productive discourse, with engaging in the flower pin.
So thank you, Stacey and Stacey, our wonderful duo of Stacey's, and to our wonderful sculptors in the audience. Just as you might like to continue to learn more about sculpting, we hope you will also want to learn more about productive discourse. To help, we will send our event video and infographic in a follow-up email by the end of next week. We encourage you to share this with others. Please also consider committing to a weekly act centered on civility, rationality, and problem solving. Getting informed by coming to this event was a great way to start, but we also encourage you to do things such as practice magnanimity, which refers to the ability to bear trouble calmly and refrain from meanness and pettiness. Practice provisionalism, which is an engagement in dialogue with a willingness to listen to other perspectives, gain new knowledge, be challenged, and possibly even be persuaded. And to practice graciousness, which includes generosity, benevolence, courteousness, and kindness towards others. Our email will also include a brief survey of what you thought of the event itself. Please take time to respond. Your feedback is very important to us. We are also sending out a poll right now. This is different from the one that will be in the email, so please take a moment to answer our questions. By the end of the month, we expect to have our full lineup of our next events for the next 12 months posted. Tickets, materials, and shipping are free, so please remember to sign up. Only those signed up a week before the events receive kits mailed to their homes for our crafting events. Our next free event is a popcorn and chat event. It is on Thursday, June 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. We will discuss disability and accessibility with an audience Q&A after we all watch a movie, Invitation to Dance, about the topic. To look for and learn about even more Inform Your Community events, not only our Craftivism program, but events from other programs as well, please check out our website at informyourcommunity.org. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And also please consider donating to cover the cost of the materials for the events that do involve crafts, as well as the shipping. It helps keep our events free for everyone when those who can donate do. Thank you for coming and for helping to inform your own communities based on what you learned.